how to stay awake during boring lectures. Something that I learned that I strongly dislike. I'm just gonna use the word, I did hate it. Is it true that you met the love of your life in undergrad? Are all-nighters normal? Is 24 hours in a day really enough? Time management, dealing with guilt when not constantly doing work, and finding your purpose. When I was 18, I graduated high school and I could think of hundreds of things I wanted to do more than go to university. I think there's a host of reasons for my repulsion to post-secondary education, but really I think it came down to the fact that I was in love with the art form that is dance, and I felt like I couldn't get anything close in terms of loving and enjoying life from the university experience. But 6 years later, I've completely changed my tune. Both. I've changed my attitude towards education completely because I've now done my undergrad, my master's, and I'm starting my PhD. So I wanted to share kind of how I fell in love with school through answering some of the questions that you've given to me on Instagram. But before I do that, I wanted to say two quick things. First off, thank you so incredibly much for the support that you've given me on the doctoral diaries and for 400 subscribers. This is insane. I recognize that this is not a massive milestone for many people, but I've been making videos for 10 years and I think that YouTube is such a special platform in the sense that you can peer into other people's lives and in essence live more lives despite only being given one, and that is super special to me. I hope that when you watch my content, you get to see the world through my eyes, you share that optimism, that romanticism, and also think critically about the world, dream about dreams that you've never had before. This is really what I want this corner of the internet to be, and it seems like people are catching on to that, and I'm really, really grateful for your support, and I see you, and I'm so thankful. Secondly, I did get all of these questions that I'm about to answer from Instagram, so I put a little story up, and many people responded with some of the undergraduate questions that they have. So if you want to be involved in future content, whether it's regarding my PhD or travel or whatever I might end up posting on here, I really recommend you checking it out, and I'll put the username right here. The first question that I have here has multiple questions, so I'm going to kind of target it chronologically. Time management, dealing with guilt when not constantly doing work, and finding your purpose. So I wanted to start off with time management in terms of coursework. I had heard this myth when I started university that for every hour of lecture that you have, you're gonna have 3 hours of prep or homework. This could not be further from the truth. How courses work they are these stepping stones that not only build upon each other, but allow you to get to some level of understanding, comprehension, mastery of what you're studying. When you begin each course, it's really important to sit down and think about how is this course fitting into what I'm supposed to be getting out of this degree. It can be very different. For example, when I studied media, we were looking at intro to journalism. So this is just about intro level understanding. With that said, you should approach every single week looking at the objectives that the instructor has set or professor has set for that week. And if you can meet those, if you can answer those questions in your own words, with quotes from the text, with a couple of vocabulary and examples, then you're good. You don't need to be spending hours and hours and hours on reading and just obsessing over content unless it is specifically engaging to you. Then you can do that. But realistically, no one has, like, the average person takes 5 courses per semester. 5 times 9, nobody has like 45, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. No one, I was right. No one has 45 hours a week to spend devoted to reading. In terms of time management, really think about the fundamentals of a course, what you need to succeed. There are going to be a lot of rules that you hear about how to succeed. At the end of the day, there's a lot of trial and error, and you have to find what works for you. And I used to hate hearing that as a perfectionist because I don't want to have the error. I just want to be good. I just want to know how to succeed. But realistically, you need to find how long really does it take for you to grasp these concepts, and how are you going to do it in a way that is meaningful to you and allows you to succeed in the course. Having guilt when you're not doing schoolwork. I used to feel this all the time. I always felt like when I was out with other people, at the back of my mind, an assignment was eating away at me, or I felt like I was going to fail this exam that was, you know, in like 7 weeks. I think the most important thing to note is that the time you spend stepping away from your schoolwork actually feeds into your success. And I know that might sound cliche, but it's absolutely true. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so I never felt like taking a day off at near the end of my studies, and especially now, I never felt like taking that step back from my work didn't give me more perspective, didn't give me more freedom to feel like this isn't an all-consuming assignment and that I'm gonna die if I don't do well on it. Sometimes taking a step back and gaining that perspective really, really does help. And I can tell you now, as a doctoral student, I've made a rule that I will not work on weekends. And this sounds ridiculous. Many people are like, what do you mean? You need to be spending every waking hour doing your research, falling in love with what you're learning. Listen, I very much love my work, and like just like a relationship, spending every waking hour with the person that you love is not healthy. And that goes to school too, and your job and academia and research. The last part of that question is how do I find my purpose? And really this just goes on with living life. And the person that asked this question actually went away for a semester abroad, which I totally suggest because that does help. I also think it's important to just get involved, and this goes into many other questions that I received. When you get involved, you are stepping away from just the sole responsibilities as a student, and you're experiencing things without necessarily being critiqued for it or graded for it. I wanted to share 3 things that I learned about myself through getting involved during my undergraduate years. So I'm going to share one thing that I learned that I loved, one thing that I learned that I hate, and one thing, hate is a strong word, strongly dislike. And lastly, one thing that I didn't see in undergrad that made me curious and I wanted to pursue in further studies, which I'm doing now. So the first thing that I learned that I loved was studying abroad and connecting with people over travel experiences, experiencing the world through food, history, art, museums, culture, everything. And I was fortunate enough to go to France and the Netherlands in my first year, and then in my second year I went to France and Spain. Just the friendships that I've made over that and how I got to see the world during that pivotal point in my life was amazing and has encouraged me to travel so much, which you've seen on this channel since. Something that I learned that I strongly dislike is mooting, which is kind of a mock court situation where you pretend play lawyer. And this is where I learned that I did not want to be a lawyer. I loved the law, I loved discussing really contentious issues, but I didn't like getting up in front of a crowd and talking about them in that confrontational way. I'm just gonna use the word, I did hate it. And I'm glad I learned that, because otherwise I would have pursued law school and thought that that was for me when it really wasn't. And the third thing, which I didn't see but I was curious about, was environmental law, environmental protection, and how we're going to be moving forward despite the triple planetary crisis. And that's exactly what I pursued for my master's and now that I'm doing in my PhD in terms of an international human rights lens. And I also wanted to mention that you don't need to do extracurriculars to advance your career or advance a potential interest of yours in terms of academia. Really getting involved, you're going to be connecting with people that you wouldn't otherwise get to connect with, and that changes who you are fundamentally. You're learning about the world, about different perspectives, and it enhances you as a human being. Getting involved with a club where you are doing a passion of yours that has no other financial or academic ends is just as significant and just as important. And if there's a club that you feel like doesn't exist and doesn't align with your passions, create it yourself. Another question that I have here is, how do you balance school with other responsibilities? For example, work, volunteer, social life, etc. I have created a color-coded system in my calendar, which I'll put in a screenshot here. School is blue, work is green, purple is personal, and then orange is YouTube. All of my core responsibilities and values are in different colors, and when I notice that a week is particularly one color or needs some more diversity, I will make sure to sprinkle in the things that I love or the things that refill my cup to make sure that I'm having a good balance. And that can change, that's okay if it does, but realistically I'm always looking to see, have I spent too much time on school this week? Was that justified? Do I need to give myself that time to go to the gym, to literally touch grass, smell a rose? Balance looks not only different every single week, but every single day. So are all-nighters normal? Is 24 hours in a day really enough? Even if it's not, we all need to be content with what we do in a day. And I really think it comes back to gratitude. You might have set out intentions for the day that you absolutely miss by a mile. I don't even know why I said mile, I'm not even American, but by a kilometer. You have to recognize that you are one person, that there's no way that you're going to be able to do it all every single day. But keep in mind the concept of marginal gains. If you're making these small increments and steps towards your goals, then that is enough. And you will get to where you want to be in time, and you need to trust the process. Sleep is important for balancing your hormones, for being a functional, alive human being. As much as I don't encourage people to take for granted the time that they have, really just enjoy what you can get done and be at peace with that. How to stay awake during boring lectures. This is so funny. Whether this is my personality or not, a lot of my classes have been genuinely interesting, but I can say that there's been a few lectures where I'm like, wow, this could really be about anything else and I would be more interested. When it comes to those classes, I really think the best thing you can do for yourself is make a game out of it, whether you're in class and listening to what your instructor / professor is saying and making a mood board out of those ideas. Or maybe you're telling yourself, once I get through this part of the lecture, or once I finish the lecture, I'm gonna go treat myself with a sweet treat. You're not going to enjoy every single topic, but I really do encourage you to find ways that do make it a little bit more interesting so that you don't fall asleep. What is reading week like? Can I do all of my readings in 2 days? Yeah, you can. You totally can do that if you have the mental capacity to do that. Reading week is really just supposed to be that halfway point through the semester that allows you to catch up on things that you've missed or perhaps work ahead. A lot of the professors and instructors will put their exams right after reading week, which I appreciated, but I also didn't like because I felt like I had to spend all of my days revising for whatever assessment I had coming down the pipe. At the end of the day, your reading week is like that halfway hydration station between that long marathon that is a semester, and so you need to use it in the way that's going to allow you to fuel up and get ready for the rest of the race. Okay, this last question is adorable, and it says, is it true that you met the love of your life in undergrad? And it actually comes from my partner Sam. It's true, I did meet the love of my life in undergrad, and I met her in 3rd year when I transferred programs. I had no idea that that was going to take me on the journey that it did. Literally fell in love with each other by being best friends. I came out to my family, I came out to her family. It literally transformed my life, and it was such a imperative part of my undergraduate experience. You learn things about yourself that are not just job prospects, like I was saying earlier. You learn things about how you want to love, who you want to love, what it takes to invest in relationships with the people that matter to you most, and what you hope to get out of connecting with people. And this is such an invaluable skill. This actually leads me into my last piece of advice for this video. Whether you're already in your undergrad, you started last week or this month, or even if you are not in school anymore and you're looking to fall back in love with learning, I want to remind you that learning can be such a transformative experience. To me, being able to wake up, think about, and engage with everything that is around me makes my life all the more interesting. It makes the plot a lot thicker. It makes everything that I do a lot more meaningful. And so I really encourage you to never stop learning, whether you're in a class that you hate, or a class that you love, or in an extracurricular that you think about even when you're not there. Use these little guides and clues about what is interesting to you and run with it. Make sure that you are constantly doing things that make you tick and that make you fall in love with the world again. Because if not, why are we here? I think learning has become about this absorption of material for an end goal, and while that's still very much true in a reality of our education system, I think it's so important to fundamentally just be curious. And I think that's why I have sustained and built a love for education that I didn't have when I was 18, because I really found things that do matter to me, and I've run with it and I've turned it into my career. So that is it for this video. I'm so thankful that you stuck around. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful week wherever you are. And if you're an undergrad, you've got this. If you're a master's, you've got this. And if you're a PhD, you've got this, I think. But we'll keep you updated on that in the doctoral diaries, and I will see you soon.